Welcome to the Don't Die Rusty podcast. I'm Rick Hanson, and we will be talking about living, not dying. We're all in this adventure together, and we will be interviewing people who inspire us to live our best lives. People with various backgrounds who will walk us down the trails they took to not die rusty. Adventure in life are many things to many people. It could be a sprint or an endurance race, but with each adventure, we become a better version of us. We hope you keep chasing those dreams, being the best you, and of course, don't die rusty. Hello, Don't Die Rusty Nation. I'm Rick Hanson, your host, and I will be here for the endurance of this show because I'm the only person talking here. So I just got back from being up in the wilderness hunting in Montana. And before I left, I was talking to some of my coworkers, and they were having this discussion about Christmas and the holiday seasons and how they're so commercialized, and it's just so commercialized and people get disheartened by it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I argued the fact that, yes, holidays are somewhat commercialized, but I also know that Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving and Christmas, there are reasons for the seasons, and Christmas is Jesus's birth, but I also believe in other things, and we'll get to that too. But I wanted to start out. So I went up to Montana hunting, and I came home, and I didn't get anything, but I got to do a lot of thinking. So I guess I became a little more wise within myself, and I looked introspectively, and I I remember I'm going to start out with Thanksgiving because Thanksgiving used to be my favorite holiday of all because it was one of those things. My uncle Buster and Lois had a cabin in the Black Hills of South Dakota. And since I was 10 years old, I came out hunting. I got to walk along with my dad till I was able to carry a rifle and go hunting myself. But I remember the Thanksgivings of there were so many people, related and not, that were at the cabin hunting. And it was one of those things that year after year I look forward to, and is looking forward to seeing this person or that person. And it was just crazy because it's funny how you grow older and times start changing and people start falling off and people start dying and these traditions start changing. And a few years back, it was just my dad, Cindy, her son, Connor, and Chloe and me. And we were up there at the cabin, and it kind of felt like, somewhat of days gone by. But it's that feeling of being in the woods at at Thanksgiving, and enjoying the time spent together because it just felt close. It felt magical at times. And it's just one of those things that I certainly miss, of the playing the cards, the smell of the wood fire, the everything that went on at that time. And if any of my relatives are listening and anybody that was there, they know what I'm talking about. Because I remember going out in the summer and picking wild raspberries, and my Aunt Lois would make raspberry jam, and that's what we'd get for Thanksgiving, was the jam that we picked in the summer. And I just remember the stories and the hanging out. And maybe I am sentimental, and I do miss those days, and I miss those people. And that's what I was thinking about this last on the Thanksgiving I was just in, because I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. But I was in a tent. I ate a mountain house for my Thanksgiving supper. Um, as most people know, I'm a macaroni and cheese with a little bacon put in it, and I'm just was happy. And but I got in my tent and I was reading a little bit, and then I shut off my light and I just thought about those times that I truly miss. And how long ago it was that I was at the cabin and I could feel the excitement and I could hear the people. I could hear those stories. And I just, I went back in time as I fell asleep. And then I woke up. And I woke up in the morning and I was thinking about Christmas then. And the first thing I thought about, and I guess the whole day was one of those things that I just thought about this time. And I was lucky. I was lucky to grow up in the country. And I was lucky in so many things that I look back on now and wish that I was at least a little more wise than I was as a kid. But I know that you're a kid and you don't think about all the things that you need to think about as a kid. But as I'm looking back at this stuff, I'm looking back more at the times that I spent with my grandma, my grandpa, my mom, my dad, sisters, cousins at times. And I look at the uncles, aunts, and I look back at those times, and it is just so crazy how simple life was back then, you know. And we'll get back into something. I'll get into it now. I mean, I'll talk about, but I believe growing up in the country, where you're away from neighbors more or less, but there's a neighborly aspect to everybody. But we would always go to grandma's house for Christmas. But I remember the times that, and there was many as a kid, really. I don't know why this is, you know, but we had blizzards. We usually always had snow. And you'd still make it to grandma's house. My Uncle Robert one time had to go clear the road so we could make it, but we made it. And I remember getting pulled on a horse with a toboggan. And those were just being outside and enjoying everything that Christmas offered. And then I went back to the thought about my coworkers talking about commercialization of Christmas. And I'm going, yes, it is commercialized. And yes, we are in a society where everything seems to be materialistic and gift oriented, but there's only truly about one or two Christmas presents that I really, really remember. And one, some of you may know if you're old enough, but I remember my Evel Knievel wind-up motorcycle. You put the motorcycle in, and then it went and did jumps and did that stuff. And I think I got a Red Ryder BB gun. But you know, the most important things that I truly remember about and miss about those Christmases is that it wasn't so much about the Christmas presents. It was about that toboggan rides. It was about the smiling and the laughing. It was about the feelings I have. And I was trying to conjure up those feelings and feel what I've had, you know, because I felt like I was losing them and I was becoming numb because you don't miss them till you think about them a lot. And I don't have, like I said, I don't have kids of my own, so I've never got to experience that laughter in the morning of Christmas Day, if Santa Claus came. So, and as I grew older, anyway, you get into your 20s and things start getting a little serious. Some of you have been to college, some of you haven't, some of you are coming home, and you start going to the other families' Christmases. I was lucky enough that I really didn't have to do that, but then you start having to do it. And when I was in my 20s, I went to Australia. I was gone for Christmas then, and then I got married. And so I was over for a couple Christmases in between there, and splitting the families, I didn't see it as anything different. And, everybody celebrates Christmas in their same way, in different ways, but it's always a closeness of family. And then I came home, then sadly, I got divorced. And you go through different periods of life through then. And I started seeing things in different ways. And I'm, like I said in other episodes, I got married and again. And these are the choices I have to live with in my life. You got to go to your wife's place, and then you got to go to then you hope to go to your mom and dad's. And, my mom used to say, it's just a day. It's all of us just getting together, but it really isn't just a day. And I found the importance of the Christmas day, Christmas Eve, the Christmas time. And I enjoyed, I really truly, not that it's just different being married, and everybody knows that. So traditions die because people aren't there. Sisters grow and they start having their own families. So they start doing their own things too. And then I got divorced. And so, yes, I've been married and divorced, and thankfully it took me 10 years to get remarried. Because in my last divorce, life was just spinning in circles. And there was a time that I wrote a letter to my mom and dad because I was probably dead broke, down and out, didn't feel like Christmas presents. And I wrote them a letter about the times that I've enjoyed with them. And I wrote them a letter telling them I love them and that I'm sorry I didn't have money for presents. But this is what you have given me. And I hope someday I can give back to you what I have gained from you guys in knowledge and love. And we talked about this in the last episode about relationships, but in that time, Kelly was helping me regain my confidence in myself, because there's other things that were going on that I'm not going to chat with you about, but I was regaining my confidence in myself. And like I said, I just started, I would go back to my mom and dad's and be there on Christmas morning because I felt it was important. And you have to realize that not everybody can be there on that Christmas morning like we used to be. But I made it necessary to be there because I felt it was important. And it's funny because in the later traditions, like Cindy and I dated, I think it was 7 or so years, maybe longer, before we got married. And I never spent Christmas with her. I spent it with my mom and dad, and she spent it with her mom and sisters. And we understood that stuff because we all wanted to be in the separate, same places. And it's not that we don't love each other. It's that we loved each other enough to know that we knew that we'll get this time together. And which is interesting because this year, Cindy and I think this is going to be the first Christmas that we're spending together, but we're flying to Alaska to spend it with Cindy's son, so that'll be good. In the time that we were alone, my dad and my mom and I, we started a tradition of watching It's a Wonderful Life. And that's something I've been looking forward to every year now, is watching It's a Wonderful Life, because it drug me out of the doldrums a couple times. It gives me hope. And it lets you know that without you being here, what would life be like? When he goes to jump off the bridge, what would it be like to be without you around? I mean, if you were never born, how many lives has everybody out there changed? I mean, how many lives have you changed by being in this world and you didn't even know it? Life is what you make it. I hope that, because everybody knew that I always wanted to be there in case it was my mom's last Christmas. And we never knew. And then when she died, was in October, before Christmas, of course. And I wanted to make sure I spent it with my dad. And we watched It's a Wonderful Life. So here's what I'm saying. I'm saying this Christmas season, holiday season, any time of the year season, rejoice in the fact that you're with those people that you love. And rejoice in the fact that it's not all about the material Christmas present. It's about the presence that you bring to Christmas. So I just hope everybody starts thinking about being present for Christmas. Love you all. Have a great day. Be the best you. Live your best life. Keep chasing your dreams. And of course, don't die rusty.
Thank you for listening to the Don't Die Rusty podcast with your hosts, Rick Hanson and Ricky Bruley. The Don't Die Rusty podcast is written and produced by Rick Hanson and Ricky Bruley. You can find us on Instagram and on Facebook at Don't Die Rusty. You can rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You might find your review read on a future episode. Got a question for the Ricks? Send us an email at don'tdierusty@gmail.com. It too could be featured on a future episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Don't Die Rusty podcast wherever fine podcasts are downloaded.